Chapter 24. It's too early for you to be happy. Little uncle is at the pillar of heaven's mountains, and I can't answer to him. He is currently tied up with military affairs and can't come down. However, you have to be prepared for it. Wang Zhuyan said. Wang Chong felt a headache coming on. This was the root of the clan's prosperity. If something were to happen, all parties would come looking for trouble. I'll think of a way myself. Wang Chong said. He felt troubled. It was all his fault for his vile image as a profligate scion. Even though this matter was related to Wang Chong for the sake of his clan, little uncle and the others wouldn't know of it. Unlike his cousin and the others, they wouldn't trust him completely. However, it was fortunate that this matter could be dragged on. As long as the truth was revealed, everything would be fine. Wang Zhuyan nodded her head and didn't ask any further. Right, what's with the two Buddhist fellows who walked out of the court of judicial review with you? Wang Zhuyan suddenly recalled something. She stared at Wang Chong warily. It can't be that you caused trouble in your clan again? No, that's definitely not the case. Hearing Wang Zhuyan mention this matter, Wang Chong hugged his head and leaned against the wall of the carriage, relaxing his entire body. He was intending to look for his cousin regarding this matter. Now that she was asking about it, it was even better. No, why did you bring them to the court of judicial review? The more Wang Zhuyan thought about it, the more she felt that something was amiss. What kind of place was the court of judicial review? It was a place where people dealt with cases. Who would come to such a place if there was nothing important? Could it be that this lad had returned to his old ways and caused trouble again after the matter with the Yao clan had not been resolved? At this point, Wang Zhuyan looked at Wang Chong as though she was facing a formidable foe. Actually, it's nothing much. That's right, I owe them some money. Wang Chong chuckled. Is it really just some money? Wang Zhuyan asked doubtfully. It's true. Wang Chong said seriously. Hearing that it was just a debt, Wang Zhuyan exhaled deeply. How much? 10 taels or 20 taels? As he spoke, he took out a silver ingot from his sleeve. I'm afraid it's not enough. Wang Chong was a little embarrassed. How much? Don't tell me you owe him a tael of gold? Wang Zhuyan exclaimed in shock, but she still lifted the cover of her seat and took out a golden leaf. Wang Zhuyan's father was the eldest son of the Wang clan. Compared to Wang Chong's father, Wang Yan, he was slightly wealthier. Wang Chong shook his head again. Don't tell me you owe him 10 taels of gold? 100 taels. Wang Chong, don't tell me you owe him 1,000 taels of gold. At the end of her words, Wang Zhuyan gritted her teeth and lost her composure. 1,000 gold taels would probably bankrupt the entire Wang clan. Even if they were to plunder all of their assets, they wouldn't be able to come up with such a sum for Wang Chong. None of them. It's 90,000 gold taels. Wang Chong shook his head. Stretching out his palms, he made an earth-shattering gesture. What? Wang Zhuyan's body trembled. Her face paled at the figure Wang Chong spoke of. When Wang Chong got into trouble at the vast crane pavilion and was reported to the Holy Emperor by the old master of the Yao clan, she was only displeased and a little angry. However, upon hearing that Wang Chong owed the other party 90,000 gold taels of money, she lost her composure in shock. Even if she sold off the entire Wang clan, she wouldn't be able to gather such a sum. It probably wouldn't even amount to a fraction of it. Second sister, I was just lying to you. Look at how frightened you are. How could I possibly owe him so much money? Just as Wang Zhuyan's face turned frosty and she was about to lash out at him, Wang Chong suddenly stood up and chuckled. Are you joking with me? Wang Zhuyan was taken aback. That means that you don't owe him that much? Of course not. Wang Chong chuckled as he shrugged. You brat. You better not, otherwise I'll kill you. Wang Zhuyan threatened fiercely, but she felt a weight lifted off her heart. This lad gave her a scare. To think that he really thought that he owed the other party so much money. However, there's something that I would like second sister to help me with. Those two Buddhist monks want to forge some ores, but they aren't familiar with the area. Seeing that there's a profit to be made, I would like to earn some profit. Second sister, you have a wide circle of friends, so can you introduce a better weaponsmithing master to me? Wang Chong chuckled. Weaponsmithing master was a unique occupation in this world. The strength, agility, and strength inscriptions they imbued into their weapons could enhance the might of the weapon. These weaponsmithing masters had high standing, and it was impossible for ordinary people to invite them over. Thus, Wang Chong could only trouble his cousin, Wang Zhuyan. However, he couldn't tell her about this. You brought those 2 Buddhist monks to the Court of Judicial Review for this matter? Wang Zhuyan widened her eyes. What else did you think it was for? Wang Chong chuckled and asked. If that's the case, then it's not a problem. Your second sister still has some connections. Wang Zhuyan paused for a moment and stared at Wang Chong in astonishment. Brat, I really couldn't tell that you would be able to find connections with these Buddhist monks after fooling around outside all day long. She didn't object to Wang Chong wanting to earn some extra income. At the very least, this lad had improved. Hee, second sister, I'll leave this favor to you then. You get busy, I won't disturb you any further, Wang Chong said with a cheeky smile. Opening the carriage door, he leaped down amidst his cousin's scolding laughter. Brat, grow up and don't cause any more trouble for me. From afar, cousin Wang Zhuyan's voice could be heard from the carriage. I got it. Standing on the street with his back facing the carriage, Wang Chong waved his hands without turning back. Only after his cousin's carriage gradually disappeared into the distance did Wang Chong retract his gaze. Kachacha, he stretched his neck and a bright glint shone in his eyes. Looks like I have to be more cautious about this matter. Cousin has always been a bold person, but just a little bit of information from him already scared her out of her wits. If I were to tell him that it's true, and a case has been filed in the Court of Judicial Review, he wouldn't be able to deny it. Wouldn't I be doomed then? Wang Chong thought. Initially, Wang Chong was prepared to tell his cousin about the 90,000 gold taels. However, it was fortunate that he changed his mind and changed his words. Otherwise, he would be in deep trouble once more. After stretching his arms and legs, Wang Chong's eyes turned, and he quickly strode toward the carriage under a lush scholar tree nearby. Young master! The door of the carriage opened and 2 familiar faces peeked out. They were Shanhai and Menglong. When Wang Zhuyan intercepted Wang Chong at the entrance of the Court of Judicial Review, she had told him that she wanted the both of them to return. However, from the looks of it, not only did the both of them not return, they even followed behind silently. Wang Chong nodded his head, as though he wasn't surprised by the appearance of the both of them. Let's go to the 8 Gods Pavilion. After which, Wang Chong leaped onto the carriage. Previously, when he was in his cousin's carriage, he suddenly understood some problems. Wang Chong suddenly knew where he should go to gather 920,000 gold taels. Jaya. With a flick of the whip, the carriage turned and entered a path completely different from Wang Zhuyan's, heading toward the 8 Gods Pavilion. The 8 Gods Pavilion was grand and majestic. The vast crane pavilion couldn't be compared to it. To the commoners in the capital, it was an existence that they could only look up to. The reason was simple. The 8 Gods Pavilion wasn't open to the public. In the Tang dynasty, only the scions of the nobles were able to enter. It was a place where the scions of the prestigious clans in the capital would walk their dogs, fight cocks, fool around, and enjoy themselves. It was said that even the princes and princesses of the royal family would occasionally appear here. The hierarchy in the 8 Gods Pavilion was strict, and there were many rules. Even though they were all teenagers or youngsters, they were divided into many different circles based on their social status. People from one circle looked at people from another circle with arrogance and haughtiness. Wang Chong was influenced by the other world, and Wang Chong didn't like this. Thus, in his previous life, Wang Chong didn't go there anymore after visiting a few times. He didn't want to interact with these people either. The reason why Wang Chong hung out with Ma Zhou and the others was because of this mindset. However, it was different this time. 90,000 gold taels wasn't a small sum. If Wang Chong wanted to raise funds to obtain the rights to sell the ores in Hyderabad, there was no better target than the princesses and young masters in the 8 Gods Pavilion. Young Master Chong, we've arrived. Just when he was in a daze, Shanhai's voice suddenly sounded by his ears. Wang Chong was taken aback. When he recovered from his daze, he realized that the carriage had already stopped. Wait here, I'll go down first. Wang Chong pushed open the door, and the moment he stepped down from the carriage, a commotion immediately gushed in like a flood. We've arrived at the Eight Gods Pavilion. Wang Chong raised his head and immediately saw a purple-red building that towered like a mountain. Rather than saying that it was a building, it was actually many buildings that formed a huge courtyard. The eaves of the courtyard were arched and the eaves were high, giving it an imposing appearance. This was the Eight Gods Pavilion. Wang Chong swept his gaze across the area and saw the hundreds of luxurious carriages in front of the Eight Gods Pavilion. These carriages were extremely extravagant and they were lined up in an orderly formation as though an army. It was a majestic sight to behold. Wang Chong knew that every single one of these carriages represented a prestigious clan in the Tang dynasty. This wasn't the first time he had seen these carriages, but this time around, it felt extremely different. This is all money. Wang Chong laughed heartily as he walked forward. Before Zhang Xian could even get close to the Eight Gods Pavilion, a commotion immediately gushed in like a flood. Listening carefully, one could discern the sounds of shouting, drinking orders, dogfighting, bird-teasing, scolding. The entire place was bustling with activity. Wang Chong flashed his token and passed through the entrance and corridors of the Eight Gods Pavilion. Following a set of stairs, he headed straight for the third floor. Wang Chong's footsteps were swift and he didn't attract the attention of others. I'm here. With a faint smile, Wang Chong stepped onto the third floor. There was a huge crowd in front of him, and many exquisite round tables were spread all over the third floor. This was the place where the scions of the prestigious clans of the Eight Gods Pavilion chatted, drank, and had fun. A large group of people were gathered here, chatting and gossiping about girls. That fellow youngster Wei should be there. Wang Chong smiled as he followed the gazes of the crowd toward the southeast corner of the third floor. There was a huge crowd there, and cheers could be heard everywhere, attracting everyone's attention. Wang Chong parted the crowd and squeezed his way over. At the southeast corner of the third floor of the Eight Gods Pavilion, Wang Chong saw a stage that was intentionally surrounded by railings. On the stage, two young men dressed in embroidered robes were currently engaged in an intense battle. One of them was a round-faced young man who was around the same age as Wang Chong. On the other hand, the other was clearly much older, around 16 to 17 years old. Furthermore, his martial arts were much higher as well. Every time he made a move, he would be able to send the round-faced young man flying, attracting the cheers of the entire hall. On the other hand, even though the round-faced young man was weaker, he was exceptionally courageous. Even though he was sent flying time and time again, his courage didn't diminish in the slightest. This lad hasn't changed at all. Looking at the round-faced young man, Wang Chong chuckled in his heart. The chubby young man who was teased time and time again was naturally Wei Hao, youngster Wei. Wei Hao was his real name while youngster was his nickname. If I didn't appear, you would have to munch on radishes for 2 months. Chapter 25. Youngster Wei was the son of the Duke of Wei, as well as Wang Chong's childhood friend. Youngster Wei was the son of the Duke of Wei, as well as Wang Chong's childhood friend. This lad's aptitude was ordinary. While others could learn a set of horse stance and bow fist in a single glance, this lad needed 3 days to learn it. With such poor aptitude, others would have long given up on martial arts. However, this lad was born with a stubborn temper. The more he couldn't do something, the more he wanted to do it. Not only so, despite his poor aptitude, not only did he enjoy sparring with others, he even liked to challenge others to a duel on the dueling ring. The Duke of Wei was skilled in business, and he was also a wealthy man. However, youngster Wei, who only had a monthly allowance of several gold taels, ended up being the same as someone like Wang Chong. Putting aside the fact that he was short of money every month, when he drank with Wang Chong would even have to pay for it at times. Wang Chong was completely speechless. If nothing unexpected happened, this lad was about to fall into someone's trap and suffer a huge setback in the Eight Gods Pavilion. Even though this lad had lost in the past, he had never lost so badly. He had lost so much that he even lost his underwear. Furthermore, youngster Wei couldn't let his family know of this. Thus, In order to return the money, this lad had no choice but to tighten his belt and munch on radishes for 6 months. The reason why Wang Chong remembered this matter was because youngster Wei had mentioned it to him more than once in his previous life. Every time, he looked miserable and unbearable, as if he had been trampled by an elephant. Based on the timing, the lad's loss happened to be today. Youngster Wei, don't say that I didn't save you. Wang Chong sneered in his heart. Wang Chong wasn't in a hurry to make a move. Youngster Wei's addiction to blindly betting was incurable. Although he had been tricked and provoked this time, it was still his own fault. If he hadn't agreed to it, nothing would have happened. Wang Chong had to teach him a lesson no matter what. Wang Chong looked at the dueling ring. The 16 to 17-year-old young man was giggling, clearly teasing youngster Wei. With his strength, he could have ended the battle a long time ago. However, he deliberately humiliated him in this way in front of everyone. Each time youngster Wei was sent flying in a pathetic manner, it would cause the surrounding crowd to burst into laughter. Since you're so arrogant, you can't blame anyone else. You asked for it. Wang Chong looked at the 16 or 17-year-old tall youth. Seeing that the time was right, he immediately made his move. Youngster Wei, cross your elbows in the horse stance. Young sparrow hawk somersault. Wang Chong's voice was mixed in the crowd, neither loud nor soft. However, when youngster Wei heard it, his entire body quivered. He seemed to uncontrollably execute Wang Chong's moves, coiling his legs and grabbing onto the ground. Just as that 16 or 17-year-old tall youth was about to send a cloud hand over, youngster Wei suddenly did a backflip and sent a ferocious kick at that tall youth's face. Bang! The tall young man was kicked and his whole body flew out. He flipped 6 to 7 feet away and lay on the ground. His whole body was stuffy. The air in the entire third floor of the 8 Gods Pavilion seemed to have been sucked dry. The noisy crowd suddenly fell silent. Looking at the tall young man who was suddenly sent flying, none of them could say a word. Who is it? Who dares to spout nonsense? Sprawled on the ground, the tall young man flew into a rage. His eyes swept across the surroundings viciously. The surroundings were silent, and no one spoke a word. He Gao Fei. What nonsense are you spouting? If you can fight, then get up. If you can't, then hurry up and kowtow to me and admit defeat. On the other side, youngster Wei was overjoyed. He knew who that voice belonged to. In that instant, he instinctively followed the other party's instructions and waved his hands. He didn't expect that the effects would be far beyond his expectations. He really loved that bastard who was giving him pointers behind his back. Don't get gleeful. If not for a moment of carelessness, do you think that you would be able to defeat me with that lousy martial arts of yours? The young man named Gao Fei flew into a rage. Pushing against the ground with his hands, he leaped up from the ground and pounced toward youngster Wei like a cheetah. Boom! The air exploded and a massive shadow of a fist pierced through space like a whip, smashing toward youngster Wei. He had executed the full arm fist. Gao Fei clearly felt humiliated after being sent flying by youngster Wei in a single move. Thus, he finally unleashed his true strength out of hatred. Not good. Youngster Wei's face paled and every single strand of hair on his body stood on end. The martial arts that Gao Fei executed were much more formidable than before. Coiling roots of an old tree. Azure dragon crouching on the bridge. Steel chains traversing the river. Wang Chong faintly smiled. From behind, he could see everything clearly and immediately gave 3 pointers. These 3 pointers were all moves that youngster Wei had practiced to the point of familiarity. Boom! In the first move, youngster Wei's body bent down and coiled up like the roots of an old tree. At almost the same instant that he bent down, a heavy fist brushed past his hair. In fact, youngster Wei could even feel his scalp going numb. Boom! In the second move, when Gao Fei changed his move and punched out with a tremendous force, youngster Wei's body turned as limp as a noodle. Bending backward, he was like a green dragon lying on a bridge, dodging the attack once more. It's my turn. Youngster Wei's eyes lit up. Without needing Wang Chong's pointers, he roared and his body bounced up like a bent bamboo, executing the steel chains traversing the river. Boom! This punch landed on Gao Fei's chest. Youngster Wei had exerted all of his strength, and Gao Fei's face turned from white to red. With a boom, he was sent flying like a cannonball, smashing through a railing and a few round tables before slamming heavily onto the ground. "Ha, I've won. I've struck it rich this time. Gao Fei, you bastard, and all of you bastards. To think that you would bet on me losing. I'll make you lose so badly that even your underwear will fall off." Youngster Wei looked at Gao Fei, who was sent flying, and shouted excitedly. That single sentence caused half of the 8 Gods Pavilion to fall silent. Their eyes were filled with resentment as they stared at Gao Fei. "Gao Fei, you trash. To think that you can't even defeat a mere Wei Hao. You made me lose so much money. Don't come to the 8 Gods Pavilion ever again. If I see you again, I'll find a few people to beat you up." "Pooey! How unlucky!" The surrounding profligate scions who had lost started cursing. In the 8 Gods Pavilion, Wei Hao was the god of fortune. As long as it was a duel that he attended, everyone would be able to earn some money. The stakes for this duel were huge, and Wei Hao thought that he would be able to earn some money. To think that Gao Fei would be so useless that he actually lost. Wei Hao didn't bother about Gao Fei, who was being scolded. Turning around, he opened his arms and dashed toward Wang Chong. "Ha, good brother, you've finally come to the 8 Gods Pavilion to look for me." Wei Hao was overjoyed. He hugged Wang Chong tightly and burst into laughter. "You're really my good brother. You've really helped me greatly this time. Otherwise, I would have lost miserably. Since you know, you should gamble less next time. At the very least, you should see who your opponent is. That fellow is much more formidable than you." Wang Chong reprimanded jokingly. "Hee, that won't do. I've been dueling since I was 5. If you want me to give up on dueling, I'd rather lose some money and munch on carrots every day." Wei Hao chuckled. Wang Chong was speechless. He could only shake his head. "Wait a moment. Wei Hao, this doesn't count." Suddenly, a loud shout sounded. Gao Fei, who had been berated by the other scions, stood up and shouted anxiously in the direction of Wei Hao and Wang Chong. "Gao Fei, are you going back on your words?" Hearing the shout, Wei Hao's eyebrows shot up. He turned around with a displeased expression. "Who helped you just now?" "Wei Hao, you went against the rules of the competition and asked for help. Damn it, who was the one who spoke just now? Come out now." Gao Fei shouted loudly, his face filled with unwillingness. If it wasn't for that bastard hiding in the crowd helping him, how could Wei Hao win against him? "Are you looking for me?" Hearing this, Wang Chong smiled and walked out from the crowd. Seeing Wang Chong walking out from the crowd, Gao Fei's pupils shrank. A fierce glint flashed across his eyes. But before he could get angry, Wei Hao had already welcomed him with a big smile. "Fuck it. I knew it was you." Wei Hao walked over and hugged Wang Chong. "Gao Fei, you can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. Which eye of yours saw that I broke the rules? Did I find someone to fight with you? Or did my brother go up the stage? Right, let me tell you, this isn't anyone. This is my good brother, Wang Chong." Wei Hao turned around, looked at Gao Fei and the crowd and said proudly, "Youngster Wei, stop sucking up." Wang Chong burst into laughter. Just as he was about to ask Wei Hao to restrain himself, he suddenly heard a gasp. Wang Chong's heart skipped a beat. He lifted his head and realized that the gazes of the crowd had changed. It was completely different from before. Even Gao Fei looked at him with fear and awe in his eyes, which was completely different from before. Wang Chong frowned. He was a little surprised, unable to understand why such a change would occur. Why are you so surprised? You are a famous person in the capital now." Wei Hao lowered his voice and chuckled beside Wang Chong's ears. "Yao Feng is such a proud and aloof person. He is known as one of the 8 talents of the younger generation in the capital. Ordinary people wouldn't even bother to look him in the eye. Even we have to respectfully call him young Master Yao. But such an unparalleled figure was actually beaten up by you. Old Master Yao even reported it to the Holy Emperor. This matter caused quite a stir in the capital. There wasn't a single descendant of an aristocratic family who didn't know about it. Everyone is filled with admiration for you. Now, everyone is saying that you are a dormant tiger. You are much stronger than that Yao Feng. Wei Hao patted Wang Chong's shoulder and said proudly. He didn't know what tiger or leopard was. He only knew that this was his good brother. If his good brother was famous, it meant that he was famous. Wang Chong was truly astonished. Previously, when he was with cousin Wang Zhuyen, Wang Chong was still thinking of how he could cooperate with her to remove the negative influence on the upper echelons of the Tang dynasty. He didn't expect to reap such unexpected rewards from these signs. Feeling the respectful and admiring gazes from the surroundings, Wang Chong suddenly realized that the benefits that the vast crane pavilion had brought him weren't as simple as what he had gained from his clan. There were many scions in the Tang dynasty, and all of them were proud and wouldn't submit to others easily. Chapter 26. Let's not spout nonsense here first. I have something to talk to you about. Let's find a place to sit down. Wang Chong patted Wei Hao's shoulders and said, All right, wait for me here. Seeing Wang Chong being so serious, Wei Hao retracted his smile. He grew up together with Wang Chong, and he knew that Wang Chong wouldn't ask for help easily. Furthermore, he didn't like coming to the Eight Gods Pavilion. There must be a reason for him to appear here. Gao Fei. Not a single cent less will be given to me. Hand it over obediently, or else you can forget about living in the capital in the future. Wei Hao tossed a bag over and pulled Wang Chong away. The scions of the prestigious clans in the Eight Gods Pavilion were reputable individuals. If they were to go back on their words, it would be embarrassing for them. Wei Hao wasn't afraid that they would go back on their words. Right, Wang Chong, can I talk to you about something? Wei Hao suddenly said. What? Wang Chong turned around and asked in astonishment. Can you not call me youngster Wei in front of so many people? Wei Hao lowered his voice and revealed a bitter expression. Upon seeing this, Wang Chong burst into laughter. Brat. Don't even think about it. The Eight Gods Pavilion was bustling with activity. Wei Hao pulled Wang Chong to his seat and sat down. Where did you go this morning? When I heard that you were out of your seclusion, I went to your house early in the morning, but your mother said that you weren't around. It sure isn't easy for me to meet you. Wei Hao was sweating profusely. He sat on his seat and drank a mouthful of the Western region pomegranate juice provided by the Eight Gods Pavilion. I had something on in the morning, so I went out. Wang Chong faintly smiled. Hearing Wei Hao's complaints, Wang Chong felt a surge of warmth in his heart. Only those who had lost something would know how to cherish it. Only Wang Chong knew how precious this seemingly ordinary scene was. Wei Hao would never know that at this time in his past life, he had already fallen out with him. In his previous life, he had a very strange feeling towards this world. This included his parents, brothers, sisters, and of course, Wei Hao. Back then, Wei Hao was Wang Chong's good brother, but he wasn't Wang Chong's. Especially during the 7 days he was in confinement. Wei Hao, the so-called good brother, didn't even look at him. What kind of good brother was this? Good friends? Good brothers? Even fair-weather friends would be better than this, right? From then on, Wang Chong completely broke off with him. She never saw him again. Only a very long time later did Wang Chong realize that while he was grounded for 7 days, Wei Hao was grounded for 7 days due to his relationship with his family. At that time, Wei Hao's father forbade Wei Hao from interacting with him due to his poor reputation. However, Wei Hao, who had always been obedient, contradicted his father for her sake. This completely infuriated his father, and caused Wei Hao to be beaten up. During those 7 days, he was actually lying in bed. However, Wei Hao never mentioned it in front of him, not even mentioning it. It was only until a long time later, when the great calamity came, that the two brothers who hadn't seen each other for a long time reunited. That was when Wang Chong found out about everything. At the same time, Wang Chong also knew that the mysterious person who had been helping him from behind the scenes after the Wang clan was no other than Wei Hao. Time reveals a man's heart. At the last moment of his life, Wang Chong finally knew what a true friend was, and what a true brother was. It was a pity that by the time Wang Chong came to his senses, it was already too late. The world had collapsed, and the heavenly continent no longer existed, let alone a mere Wei Hao. When Wei Hao finally died in front of him, Wang Chong couldn't help but cry. The biggest mistake he made in his life was to lose a true friend, a true brother. This was the pain in Wang Chong's heart, and also the regret of Wang Chong's life. Good brother. Don't worry in this life, no matter what, I will never let you go. Wang Chong looked at the carefree Wei Hao, who seemed to know nothing, and thought. Speaking of which, you really caused a huge commotion with Yao Feng this time. It's a pity that fellow's martial arts are too powerful, and I'm not his match. Otherwise, I would have gone with you. Speaking of which, Yao Feng is too much. To think that he would make use of Ma Zhou to deal with you. Wei Hao slammed the table and said angrily, I told you long ago that Ma Zhou is a bastard, a hooligan. He must have some ulterior motives for hanging out with you. Do you believe me now? I believe you, I believe you. Wang Chong smiled. Looking at his brother's grumbling face, he felt warmth in his heart. This wasn't the first time he had heard such grumbling, but the feeling this time around was different. It had been a long, long time since they last saw such an ordinary scene between the two brothers. Brother, birds of a feather flock together. It's impossible for a cat and a rat to mix together, it's impossible for a fish to leave its habitat, and it's impossible for a bird to burrow underground like a worm. Nothing good will come out of the environment we were born in. Ma Zhou's matter is a good example. In the future, you shouldn't hang out with Ma Zhou and his gang anymore. Listen to me, come to the 8 Gods Pavilion more often in the future. Here, we are all of the same background, and we are all going to inherit our family's business in the future. It will be beneficial for us to interact more and have some fun. Wei Hao rambled on and said earnestly. To his brothers, Wei Hao had always been someone who was willing to sacrifice himself for them. Due to Wang Chong's rebellious personality, he was getting closer and closer to Ma Zhou and his gang. Seeing this, Wei Hao felt anxious and worried about Wang Chong. This wasn't the first time Wei Hao had spoken to Wang Chong about Ma Zhou's matter. In Wei Hao's view, Wang Chong probably wouldn't listen to his words. However, Wang Chong's reaction this time around was out of his expectations. All right. Wang Chong spoke a single word decisively. All right. Wei Hao was stunned. His outstretched hand pointed at the air, and the long speech that was about to come out of his mouth suddenly stopped in its tracks. All right? That's it? Wei Hao widened his eyes, unable to react to the situation. He had told him so many times in the past, but it was useless. This time around, he listened to him just once? How was this possible? Wei Hao blinked his eyes, unable to comprehend the situation. You won't hang out with Ma Zhou and his gang anymore? Will you come to the 8 Gods Pavilion with me more often? With a smile, Wang Chong nodded his head once more. Wei Hao blinked his eyes, and for a moment, he was at a loss for words. Wang Chong, you're really different from before. Wei Hao assessed Wang Chong from head to toe in astonishment. The current Wang Chong was completely different from before. In the past, Wang Chong would never come to the 8 Gods Pavilion. It was even more impossible for him to listen to his advice. Furthermore, the current Wang Chong was calm and composed. His disposition was completely different from before, as though he was a completely different person. Ha! You finally thought it through. I'm truly happy for you. Wei Hao suddenly thought of something, and he patted Wang Chong's shoulder with a delighted expression. Wang Chong was framed by Ma Zhou and was locked up for 7 days. As the saying went, a fall into the pit, a gain in your wit. In Wei Hao's view, the reason why Wang Chong underwent such a drastic change was due to Ma Zhou. Wang Chong had truly come to his senses. There was nothing that could make Wei Hao happier than this. Wang Chong chuckled. He knew what Wei Hao was thinking, but Wang Chong wouldn't reveal the true reason. This time, Wang Chong had another mission. It's about time. Wang Chong chuckled as he turned to look at a certain spot in the crowd. As though responding to Wang Chong's thoughts, a commotion broke out amidst the crowd. Before he could see anyone, an enigmatic voice could be heard before he could even see them. Yo, isn't this young Master Wang Chong? The voice was filled with sarcasm and mockery. The crowd parted, revealing a 15 to 16-year-old youth wearing a silver crown. He wore a white robe embroidered with cloud patterns and had a peach blossom fan in his hand. He strode over with his head held high, his face filled with disdain. A large group of people followed closely behind him, laughing and joking. "Su Bai, what are you doing here?" Upon seeing this person, Wei Hao's expression changed. He stood up abruptly and hostility could be seen in his eyes. "We don't welcome you here." Scram. Wei Hao shot forward and stood in front of Wang Chong worriedly. Su Bai was the son of Duke of Su, and Duke of Su was close to the Yao clan. Wang Chong had just defended the Yao clan. This Su Bai probably didn't come with good intentions. Wei Hao, stop pretending. This isn't your home. Why can't I be here? Besides, did I say that I'm here to look for you? Wang Chong, don't you think so? As Su Bai spoke, his cold gaze fell on Wang Chong, who was standing behind Wei Hao. Wang Chong glanced at Gao Fei, who was standing behind Su Bai with his head lowered. He knew that Su Bai was brought here by Gao Fei. Since Gao Fei couldn't deal with Wei Hao and him, he brought Su Bai here as reinforcements. To put it more bluntly, Gao Fei was arranged by Su Bai to harm Wei Hao. Since Su Bai's plan failed, he couldn't help but find fault with Wang Chong. However, Wang Chong wasn't interested in bickering with him. "Su Bai, you came at the right time. Lend me some money." Wang Chong raised his head to look at Su Bai and said calmly. The moment he said those words, the area within 10 zhongs suddenly fell silent. The originally cheerful crowd looked at Wang Chong in shock. Even Wei Hao, who was standing in front of Wang Chong like the eagle protecting its chick, was stunned. Borrow money? Wang Chong wanted to borrow money from Su Bai? What was going on? Didn't Wang Chong know that he was the person Su Bai hated the most? Furthermore, given the relationship between the Su clan and the Yao clan, why would Su Bai lend him money? Ha! Wang Chong, are you insane? What makes you think that I would lend you money? After a moment of shock, Su Bai couldn't help but burst into laughter. Behind him, the crowd also couldn't help but burst into laughter. This lad must be insane. To think that the young master would lend him money. I think he's still awake from his morning nap. What nonsense are you spouting here? A group of people started jeering and mocking him. The heir of the Wang clan, Wang Chong, was borrowing money from the opposing Duke Su's heir? There was nothing more hilarious than this in the Eight Gods Pavilion today. This lad was too wishful thinking. Hearing the laughter around him, Wei Hao felt so awkward that he could die. "Wang Chong, what are you doing?" Even now, he still didn't think that Wang Chong was the real deal. Given the relationship between Su Bai and Wang Chong, it was impossible for Wang Chong to borrow money from him. 2% interest. A month. Calculated by the days. When the time comes, the principal and interest will be paid together. Wang Chong chuckled. Leaning back, he said these simple words. In an instant, the entire hall fell silent. Even the scions and scions from the other tables were attracted by Wang Chong's words. Their eyes widened in shock. SSSS. Gasps could be heard. Even Su Bai widened his eyes, as though he was seeing Wang Chong for the first time. Wang Chong's words were concise, but all scions in the capital understood what he meant. 2% interest, calculated by the days, would be 60% interest in a month. 10 silver taels would become 16 silver taels. Wang Chong's interest was even crazier than loan sharks. "Wang Chong, you're insane." Wei Hao's face suddenly warped. He turned around and grabbed Wang Chong's arm. His fingers were so nervous that they were almost digging into Wang Chong's flesh. "If you lack money, you can just tell me. Why are you borrowing money from them?" Chapter 27. Wang Chong shook his head and shot him a consoling gaze. He was never one to act rashly. Even though the interest of 2% was a hefty sum, as long as he was able to obtain the dealership of the Hyderabad Stone expansion mine, this amount was nothing. "Su Bai, these words aren't just effective on you. It's the same for others as well. Anyone who wants to borrow money from me can do so. I can even write down a promissory note as proof." Wang Chong said calmly. His voice wasn't loud, but it was loud enough to be heard by everyone. In an instant, everyone's gazes turned subtle. Which one of the scions in the 8 Gods Pavilion didn't have an extraordinary background and wealth? These people had never worried about food and drink. However, no matter how wealthy their families were, no one would complain about having too much money. Furthermore, even though their families gave them a lot of money, their expenses were high as well. Take Wei Hao for example. Even though his family gave him a lot of money, he didn't have many silver taels left on him. Most of the time, he didn't even have enough money to spend. To think that the son of Duke Jiu would be so poor that he would come to the 8 Gods Pavilion to beg for money. Wang Chong, if you want money, you don't have to go through so much trouble. Take this silver tael as a reward from me. You don't have to return it. After the initial shock, Su Bai suddenly chuckled. With a flick of his wrist, he took out a silver tael and tossed it onto the round table before Wang Chong. 2% interest, calculated on a daily basis, would be 60% a month. Wang Chong's promise couldn't be considered small. However, Su Bai suddenly thought of something important. Duke Jiu's lineage was known for their incorruptibility, which was also known as poverty. For a son like Wang Chong, his monthly expenses were only a few silver taels. How much interest could these few silver taels generate? It was useless no matter how high Wang Chong's offer was. Since that was the case, he might as well be generous and give him a few silver taels. At the same time, he could make use of this opportunity to mock him. Unexpectedly, Wang Chong stretched out his index and middle fingers, and with a flick of his fingers, the silver ingot fell to the ground. Su Bai. This amount of silver isn't even enough to fill the gaps between my teeth. You'd better keep it for your own use. Wang Chong sneered disdainfully. Humph. If you think it's too little, I can give you another ingot. Su Bai sneered. With a flick of his wrist, another silver ingot landed on the table in front of Wang Chong. Wang Chong didn't even look at it. With a grin, he flicked his finger, sending the ingot of silver to the ground. Not enough. Wang Chong said calmly. That mocking gaze of his caused Su Bai's heart to clench in pain. Brat, don't be too greedy. I'm in a good mood today, that's why I reward you with 2 ingots of silver. Before he could fly into a rage, another scion stepped out and placed a few gold taels on Wang Chong's table. Then a third, a fourth. These bastards, aren't they going against Gongzi? The faces of the crowd beside Su Bai darkened. The actions of these scions was equivalent to slapping Su Bai's face. But for so many of them to lend money to Wang Chong at the same time, at this moment, even Su Bai didn't dare to stand out and stand against the crowd. Wang Chong, are you insane? What do you need so much money for? Wei Hao saw everything, and he whispered to Wang Chong anxiously. He was clear about Wang Chong's expenses, and he knew that he didn't need so much money. He couldn't understand why Wang Chong wanted to borrow so much money. Wei Hao, don't worry. I'm not fooling around. I didn't borrow this money to squander it, but for another purpose. You'll understand in a moment. Wang Chong said calmly. Borrowing the 4 treasures of the study from a scion beside him, Wang Chong hurriedly wrote out a promissory note. Upon seeing this promissory note, the crowd around Wang Chong increased. Wang Chong, I'll leave the money to you. Write one for me. Me too. A commotion broke out around Wang Chong. Upon seeing this sight, Su Bai's face darkened and he turned to leave. Gongzi, are we going to leave just like that? In the crowd, Gao Fei squeezed to Su Bai's side and asked indignantly. However, due to Wang Chong's interference in the duel, he had lost more than 10 gold taels. He was unwilling to let it go just like that. Why should we leave? Su Bai halted his footsteps and turned to look at Wang Chong's direction. He sneered coldly. Didn't you hear what he said? 2% interest, calculated on a daily basis. Borrow as much as you have. Why should we leave when such an opportunity is presented to us? Then Gongzi means, Gao Fei was confused. If they weren't leaving, what was Su Bai trying to do? Doesn't this lad want to borrow money? Since that's the case, let's give him a big one. I would like to see how he is going to repay the interest of several hundred gold taels with his monthly allowance of a few silver taels. Look for Yao Gongzi now and tell him about this matter. You will know what to do when the time comes. Su Bai sneered coldly. Yes, Gongzi. I'll go now. Gao Fei's heart jolted. Understanding the situation, he rejoiced. Without another word, he quickly left. Disciples of prestigious clans like them didn't receive much money from their families. Usually, it would be at least a few silver taels to a dozen gold taels. However, Yao Feng didn't have much. It wasn't a problem for him to borrow a few hundred gold taels. If Wang Chong still didn't come out a month later, this would be the best opportunity to deal with the Wang clan. Even if he couldn't deal with the Wang clan, this was also a good opportunity to earn money. To be able to earn several dozen gold taels in a month, why wouldn't he do such a good thing? The news that Yao Feng received was much faster than he had expected. What? That Wang Chong is borrowing money wantonly in the Eight Gods Pavilion? In a tavern not too far away from the Eight Gods Pavilion, Yao Feng's eyebrows were deeply knitted together. In the morning, he received news that Wang Chong had found 2 Buddhist men to play with. Now, the news that Wang Chong was in the Eight Gods Pavilion was completely contradictory. That's right, Gongzi. I saw it with my own eyes. There's no mistake. Gao Fei said respectfully. Fear could be seen on his face. Hearing Gao Fei's words, Yao Feng's frown deepened. Wait a moment. Without any hesitation, Yao Feng suddenly stood up and turned around. A few steps later, he lifted the curtain and entered the room. Father, should we investigate this matter? Could there be something fishy about it? Yao Feng bowed and recounted the news to his father, waiting for his father's instructions. On this matter, his father was the most concerned about Wang Chong. Yao Guangyi frowned and fell silent. Don't act recklessly on this matter for the time being. I will be heading to the borders today to deal the final blow to the Wang clan. Before this matter is settled, don't attract the attention of the Wang clan. Yao Guangyi buttoned up the last button on his collar and a scheming expression appeared on his face. However, you can pay close attention to this matter. Doesn't that lad want to borrow money? Just satisfy his request. Yes, I understand. Yao Feng lowered his head and replied. However, a hint of excitement could be seen in his eyes. He knew that his father was heading to the borders to deal a fatal blow to the Wang clan. After this matter, no one would remember the humiliation he had suffered in the vast crane pavilion. Take this money pouch and pass it to Su Bai. Walking out from the room, Yao Feng grabbed a heavy money pouch and threw it to Gao Fei. Yes, I'll do it now. Gao Fei grabbed the money pouch on the table and left excitedly. After leaving the room, he mounted his horse and galloped away. In the Eight Gods Pavilion, Wang Chong was currently extremely busy. Every time he received a sum of money, he would write down a piece of data. Money after money flew over from all directions. Thus, Wang Chong's IOU couldn't stop being written. 1 tael, 2 taels, 3 taels. The money that was thrown over varied from a few taels to a dozen or 20 taels. When everything was over and Wang Chong counted the money, he realized that there were more than 200 gold taels. Upon seeing this figure, even Wei Hao's expression changed. Even though he came from a wealthy family and loved to gamble, his monthly allowance was only 11 to 12 taels. To think that Wang Chong actually borrowed more than 200 gold taels from the Eight Gods Pavilion. Even for Wei Hao, this was not a small amount. Looking at Wang Chong, who was riding by the side, Wei Hao was stunned speechless. It's still not enough. Wang Chong furrowed his brow in worry. Even though 200 gold taels was a huge sum to the scions in the capital, it wasn't enough for Wang Chong. The Hyderabad ores were extremely valuable and Wang Chong didn't expect to raise a sum of 90,000 gold taels from the scions in the Eight Gods Pavilion. Wang Chong only needed 500 to 600 gold taels to hire someone to forge, and inscribe a few basic Wuxia steel weapons for him. As long as he could forge a Wuxia steel weapon, Wang Chong would slowly accumulate enough money to purchase the 300 jun of Hyderabad ores. However, it was only 200 gold taels now. This was far from Wang Chong's expectations. Chapter 28. Just as Wang Chong was feeling anxious, a powerful hand reached out from the crowd, grabbing a heavy money pouch. Pang! The hand smashed the pouch heavily on the ground before Wang Chong. Wang Chong, you said it yourself. 2% interest, calculated on a daily basis. Is your word still valid? A cold voice sounded from above. Su Bai. Wang Chong lifted his head in astonishment. Seeing the familiar arrogant face, he couldn't help but chuckle. Of course it's valid. Su Bai, are you going to lend as well? Hee, Wang Chong, I have 1,500 gold taels here. Give me the promissory note and you can take it all. Remember, return me 2,400 gold taels a month later. Su Bai sneered coldly. Hearing this figure, the crowd couldn't help but exclaim in astonishment. 1,500 gold taels. This was an unimaginable sum of money. No one could have imagined that Su Bai would be able to gather so much money. Based on a monthly calculation, Su Bai would be able to earn 900 gold taels in a month. There had never been a scion who could earn so much money in a single month. With this sum of money, Su Bai would be able to live lavishly for a long period of time. Hee, since you dare to lend it to me, why wouldn't I dare to accept it? Looking at the heavy money pouch before him, Wang Chong was overjoyed. It just so happened that he felt that he didn't have enough money, so Su Bai sent it over. With this 1,000 gold taels, he wouldn't be in such a tight spot anymore. He would be able to carry out his plans better. Shwa shwa shwa. Without waiting for Su Bai's reaction, Wang Chong lifted his brush, dipped it in ink, and swiftly wrote down a letter. Flicking the ink, he passed it over to Su Bai. Take it. If you lose it, I won't be able to return it. You don't have to worry about that. Su Bai smiled sinisterly. Stretching out his right hand, he snatched the promissory note from Wang Chong's hand. Wang Chong, I have something to say to you. Seeing Su Bai's gleeful smile, Wei Hao couldn't hold himself back anymore. He pulled Wang Chong forcefully and dragged him out of the room. Laughter could be heard from the pavilion. Looking down from above, Su Bai watched Wei Hao and the others leave with a cold sneer in his eyes. In the Eight Gods Pavilion, just as everyone was about to disperse after watching the show, Su Bai suddenly turned around. Wait. Su Bai's face darkened as he suddenly called out to everyone. The Eight Gods Pavilion abruptly fell silent, and doubtful gazes turned to look at Su Bai. While everyone was still perplexed, Su Bai suddenly reached into his robe and took out the pendant token. This is Yao Feng Gongzi's token. Yao Gongzi had ordered that no one was to speak of what had happened in the Eight Gods Pavilion today. If anyone leaks this information, that person will become the enemy of Duke Yao's mansion, and at the same time, become the enemy of our Su family. Su Bai glared viciously at the crowd, his expression incomparably cold. Some of the dissatisfied disciples felt a chill in their hearts when they heard this. They couldn't help but shiver and quickly shut their mouths. The Yao clan's influence was monstrous and they were highly regarded by the king of Qi. Currently, they were at the peak of their power and no one in the capital dared to offend them. With the addition of the Su clan, no one dared to offend them. No one dared to disregard Su Bai's warning. Weird. Among the crowd, only Gao Fei was surprised. He had just returned from Yao Feng Gongzi's residence, but Yao Feng didn't say such words. Lifting his head, Gao Fei was just about to say something when Su Bai glared at him viciously. He immediately understood what was going on and his heart shuddered. He hurriedly lowered his head, not daring to speak a word. Yao Feng had many people in the Eight Gods Pavilion, and the people he came into contact with were all scions of prestigious clans. He didn't consider this possibility, but Su Bai did. There were too many people in the Eight Gods Pavilion, and if the matter of Wang Chong borrowing money were to be leaked to the Wang clan, this show wouldn't be able to continue. If Wang Chong were to borrow money today, the Wang clan would return the money to them tomorrow. No one would be able to benefit from this, nor would they be able to use this to threaten the Wang clan. The promissory note that Wang Chong wrote was a powerful weapon against the Wang clan. How could Su Bai allow anything to go wrong? With the reputation of the Yao clan and Su clan, he would like to see who would dare to leak this matter out. Wang Chong, what are you trying to do by borrowing so much money? Walking out of the Eight Gods Pavilion and onto the streets, Wei Hao couldn't help but ask, 1,700 gold taels, 1,700 gold taels. Do you know that it will be a huge problem if you don't return it in a month's time? On the streets, Wei Hao stared at Wang Chong in panic. 1,700 gold taels might be a pie that fell from the heavens in the eyes of others, but in Wei Hao's eyes, it was a hot potato. Just thinking about it made Wei Hao's head spin and his limbs go numb. Up till now, Wei Hao still couldn't understand why Wang Chong suddenly wanted to borrow such a huge sum of money. Wei Hao, don't panic. I know what I'm doing. Wang Chong smiled calmly. His expression was exceptionally calm, and that unique calmness caused Wei Hao to calm down. Even though he didn't know what Wang Chong was up to, Wei Hao suddenly believed that there was a reason for Wang Chong's actions. He wasn't acting recklessly. I won't hide it from you. I have a huge use for this sum of money. If I were to succeed, not only would it be beneficial to me, it would also be beneficial to our Tang dynasty. They had grown up together, so Wang Chong revealed the matter regarding Hyderabad to Wei Hao without hiding anything. Initially, Wei Hao was listening attentively, but at the end, he couldn't help but exclaim in shock. What? 90,000 gold taels. Wei Hao stared at Wang Chong with widened eyes and shouted, Wang Chong, are you insane? How can you agree to such a deal? This is impossible. What kind of or is worth 90,000 gold taels? Wei Hao's vision darkened, and he felt that he couldn't even stand straight anymore. He thought that 1,700 gold taels was more than enough, but he didn't expect an even greater calamity to follow. Wang Chong actually owed 90,000 gold taels to someone. Wei Hao felt as though his head was about to explode. Wei Hao, don't panic. I know what I'm doing, nothing will go wrong. Wang Chong said calmly, his voice as calm as usual. Wei Hao's reaction wasn't out of his expectations. For 14 to 15-year-old youths like them, anyone would have the same reaction when they heard of 90,000 gold taels. However, Wang Chong wasn't acting impulsively. If he wasn't certain that he could reap greater benefits from the Hyderabad ore, he wouldn't have done such a thing. Wei Hao, compared to what you're worried about, I need your help more now. Wang Chong said calmly. What is it? Wei Hao took a deep breath and calmed himself down. Tell me, what do you need me to do? As long as I can help you, I'll do my best to help you. I'll try my best to help you through this. Good brother. Wang Chong smiled faintly. As expected of his good brother who had grown up with him, he was indeed reliable at crucial moments. There are too many people here, let's go. Let's talk in the carriage. With Wang Chong in front and Wei Hao behind, the two of them entered the carriage by the side of the road. Wei Hao's eyebrows were tightly knitted together. He seemed to be considering how he should deal with the aftermath for Wang Chong. 90,000 gold taels wasn't a small sum, and it was an impossible task. Wei Hao didn't think that Wang Chong would be able to accomplish it. Thus, Wei Hao tried to persuade Wang Chong once more. Wang Chong, can't you think of a way to cancel this deal? No. Wang Chong shook his head. It's impossible to cancel a deal recorded in the Court of Judicial Review, and he doesn't wish to do so either. Then what do you want me to do? Wei Hao asked. I need at least 12 skilled blacksmiths to help me refine ores and forge weapons. Your Wei clan has many connections, help me think of a way. Wang Chong said. The Wang clan didn't specialize in business, and in this aspect, the Duke of Wei residence was much better than the Wang clan. No problem, I'll do my best to help you. Wei Hao agreed without any hesitation. Even though he hadn't taken over the clan's business yet, finding a dozen skilled blacksmiths was a piece of cake for him. Hee, good brother, I won't say too many words of gratitude. Wang Chong chuckled and he felt much more at ease. 90,000 gold taels wasn't a small sum. Finding a few blacksmiths to refine the ores and forge the Hyderabad ores into wood steel weapons was the best solution. Since the price of the Hyderabad ores wasn't high, as long as he forged a few wood steel weapons, he would be able to earn 90,000 gold taels for the two Buddhist blacksmiths. With Wei Hao's help, Wang Chong felt much more at ease. Seeing Wang Chong's expression, Wei Hao hesitated for a moment, and his heart was filled with worry. He knew what Wang Chong was thinking, but judging from Wang Chong's expression, it didn't seem like he would give up. Right now, he could only try his best to help Wang Chong overcome this hurdle. Also, there's something I need to trouble you with. Wang Chong suddenly said. Oh, what is it? Wei Hao was surprised. Other than this, he didn't know what else Wang Chong needed his help with. I need you to help me look into a person named Zhang Munian. Wang Chong said. Zhang Munian? Wei Hao frowned. He hadn't heard of this name before, and it didn't seem to be very famous. He's an official of the royal court, so his rank shouldn't be too high. As long as you look through the list of officials in the royal court, you should be able to find his name. If you find him, inform me immediately. Wang Chong said. What do you need him for? Wei Hao asked curiously. Could it be that Wang Chong got acquainted with someone that he didn't know of? There's a matter that I need to trouble him with. This matter is extremely important, so you must keep it in mind. Wang Chong said solemnly. This matter was of great importance, so Wang Chong didn't want Wei Hao to know of it for the time being. All right then. My father would often bring some name lists from the Bureau of Personnel back home. As long as he's on it, I'll be able to find him. I'll inform you when the time comes. Wei Hao said helplessly. Hee, good brother. I knew that you would agree to it. Wang Chong chuckled as he hammered Wei Hao's shoulder. What can I do? We're brothers after all. Wei Hao replied with a punch. However, when this punch landed on Wang Chong staggered. Seeing that Wang Chong nearly fell off his seat, Wei Hao was taken aback and hurriedly retracted his fist. Wang Chong, why is your strength so weak? Wei Hao was taken aback. He hurriedly supported Wang Chong. What do you mean weak? I've always been like this, you should know that. Wang Chong said. It's been a long time since we last met. Back then, when you guided me to deal with Gao Fei, I thought that your strength had soared. Wei Hao opened his eyes wide. Wang Chong was speechless. Although Wei Hao's talent wasn't high, he was very hardworking. In this aspect, Wang Chong couldn't compare to him. Wang Chong, you really should work harder. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. Leave the matter you asked me to do to you, I'll be leaving first. The carriage arrived. Wei Hao jumped down from the carriage. After Wei Hao left, Wang Chong didn't stay any longer. He took the 1,000 taels of gold and headed back home. Just as Wang Chong was returning home, two guests came to the white agate jewelry shop. Is this the place? On the bustling street, a figure in blue stared blankly at the white signboard above his head. That's right, the white agate jewelry shop. This is the place. The other person said with certainty. These two people had long beards that fluttered in the wind. They exuded a powerful aura with every movement they made. It was obvious that they came from an extraordinary background. These two Buddhist monks look ordinary. I didn't expect the iron ores on them to be so powerful. If it wasn't for the clan head unintentionally discovering the secrets of these samples, I'm afraid we would still be in the dark. That's right. Those two monks look ordinary, and they don't even know how to speak Central Plains Chinese. I didn't expect them to have such sharp ores on them. If our Zhang clan can obtain these ores, we will definitely be able to advance further. As the two of them spoke, they raised their palms and one of them revealed a piece of Hyderabad ore that looked exactly the same as the other one. This was just a sample. A month ago, a steward of the Zhang clan met these monks who were selling iron ores. Just like before, this steward asked for a few samples of iron ores and brought them back. These samples had been kept in the Zhang clan's warehouse for a long time, but no one had shown interest in them. It wasn't until the steward accidentally discovered a problem in the refining process and reported it to the clan head that they started to pay attention to it. No one expected that the steward of the Zhang clan would accidentally bring back such a valuable iron ore sample. The Zhang clan held a meeting that very night. The clan head even made an exception and directly sent these two elders to carry out this matter. Moreover, he made it clear that this matter must be done properly. Our Zhang clan isn't the only one who refines weapons and armors in the capital. The competition is very fierce. This Hyderabad ore is very special, and it might be able to change the current situation of our Zhang clan. The clan head has instructed us not to let the other clans know about this matter no matter what, and we must find a way to do it properly. The lanky middle-aged man in green said in a deep voice. The other person echoed and also nodded seriously. The Zhang clan's current situation was very bad, and they urgently needed an opportunity to get out of the current situation. This was also the reason why they personally came out. Turning around, the two snapped their fingers and waved to the people behind them. Cut. On the street, about 10 meters away from the two, the door of a carriage opened. From the carriage, a bald monk in his 30s or 40s with a pair of wide sleeves and a pair of wise eyes walked out. Amitabha. The bald monk looked around, loudly chanted the name of Buddha, and immediately walked toward the two middle-aged men in green. If anyone else were here at this moment, they would definitely be shocked. This person was none other than Monk Hui Ming from the Jiantong Monastery in the outskirts of the city. There were very few people in the capital who knew Sanskrit, definitely not more than 5. And Monk Hui Ming was one of them. The two Sindhi Buddhists only knew Sanskrit, and they didn't know the Han language of the Central Plains. This was the reason why the Zhang clan invited Monk Hui Ming over, so as to facilitate communication and reach a deal. Master, this way. The two green-robed middle-aged men bowed respectfully. As soon as they finished speaking, the three of them entered the white agate jewelry shop. Even though they had made ample preparations, when the three of them entered the white agate jewelry shop and saw the two Buddhist men, the development of the situation far exceeded their expectations. What? The Hyderabad ore has already been bought? The two green-robed middle-aged men stared at the two Sindhi monks before them in shock. They couldn't believe their ears. How is this possible? The eyes of the second middle-aged man were filled with shock. The reason why they had made a low-profile trip this time was to reach a deal. The clan viewed this deal with great importance, and they were given great authority. Chapter 29. Amitabha. Yes, benefactors, the Hyderabad ore has indeed been bought by someone. Monk Hui Ming pressed his palms together and after confirming with the two Sindhi Buddhists once more, he said. The two of them stared at one another, unable to say a word. The Hyderabad ore was definitely not something that could sell well. These two Buddhist monks had been in the capital for several months now, but they hadn't been able to sell it. This had to do with their sales methods. The method they used to promote the Hyderabad ore wasn't right at all. Another reason was that the Hyderabad ore had just appeared and there were very few people in the capital who could recognize it. Furthermore, these two Buddhist monks were very low profile and only knew how to speak Sanskrit. If one didn't know Sanskrit, it would be impossible to communicate with them. Thus, the Zhang clan was extremely confident in this transaction and didn't consider anything else. On their way here, they even thought of using this point to lower the price. But they didn't expect that the Hyderabad ore had already been sold. Where did you sell your Hyderabad ore to? The green-robed middle-aged man asked with a grave expression. Ask him if it was bought by a clan in the capital. The other middle-aged man said. The first reaction of the two was that the two Sindhi Buddhist monks were lying and were using this method to raise the price. Otherwise, it would have been bought by another blacksmith clan in the capital. If it was the former, they would just have to pay a little more. But if it was the latter, then they would be in trouble. No matter what, the two of them had to know which competitor was faster than them. Monk Hui Ming nodded his head and immediately relayed the conversation of the two Sindhi Buddhist monks in Sanskrit. It's not a clan. It was bought by a 14 to 15-year-old child. After a while, Monk Hui Ming turned around and shook his head as he spoke to the two of them. A child? The two were dumbfounded. They couldn't believe their ears. A child? How could it be a child? This answer was even more shocking than when the two of them heard that the Hyderabad ore had been bought without any preparation at all. Master, did you translate it wrongly? The second green-robed middle-aged man said. Although he knew it was offensive, he couldn't care less at this time. The matter of the Hyderabad ore was not a small matter. The two of them could not believe that such an important thing had been bought by a child. Moreover, how could a child have such wealth? Their first reaction was to wonder if Monk Hui Ming's Sanskrit wasn't refined enough, and if he had made a mistake in the translation process, translating the name of an aristocratic family as a child. For a moment, Monk Hui Ming's expression turned extremely ugly. However, he still suppressed the unhappiness in his heart and continued to communicate with the two Buddhist monks. That's right. It was bought by a child. They said the kid was called Wang Chong. After a short moment, Monk Hui Ming spoke seriously once more. Wang Chong? The two of them felt agitated. This situation was completely out of their expectations. They had no impression of the name Wang Chong. There were so many 14 to 15-year-old children in the capital. How would they know which child it was? Tell them to be more specific. What does the child look like? The green-robed middle-aged man asked. In his heart, he still did not believe that the Hyderabad or would be bought by a random child. This was too sudden. They said that the child was wearing green clothes and was about this tall. Monk Hui Ming carefully recounted the description of the two Buddhist monks. However, this only made the two of them more agitated and confused. There were too many children like this in the capital. Right? They said that the child is the descendant of Duke Jiao of the Tang dynasty. Monk Hui Ming finally revealed a useful piece of information. Duke Jiao? The two of them trembled, and a horrified expression appeared on their faces. What the hell? How did Duke Jiao get involved in this? In the Tang dynasty, everyone knew that Duke Jiao was incorruptible and didn't come into contact with these business matters. How could this matter be related to Duke Jiao? Are you sure you didn't hear wrongly? The two of them widened their eyes. Absolutely. Monk Hui Ming was even more shocked than the two of them. The reason why he agreed to the Zhang clan's request was because he only needed to translate and communicate with them. However, he didn't expect that Duke Jiao would be involved in this matter. In the Tang dynasty, Duke Jiao was an influential figure, and there was almost no one who didn't know of him. Ask him, what's going on here? Duke Jiao is a person of virtue and prestige, and I have never heard of him being interested in iron forging. How did he get involved in this matter? The two of them asked. This matter was too bizarre, and the two of them had to get to the bottom of it. Monk Hui Ming communicated with the two of them once more. They said that it wasn't Duke Jiao. It was Duke Jiao's grandson who took the initiative to look for him. In addition, they didn't sell the Hyderabad or to him. Instead, they signed an agreement with him. As long as Duke Jiao's grandson is able to gather 90,000 gold taels and hand it over to him within a month, the agreement will come into effect. He will have the rights to dispose of the Hyderabad ore in the Central Plains. Monk Hui Ming revealed an extraordinary piece of news. 90,000 gold taels? The two of them widened their eyes in shock. They were at a loss for words. 90,000 gold taels was a massive sum that even the Zhang clan wouldn't be able to fork out in a short period of time. Yet, Duke Jiao's grandson actually dared to make such a huge bet. From their point of view, this was an impossible mission. But regardless, from Monk Hui Ming's words, the two of them still managed to obtain an important piece of information. In other words, the deal hasn't been completed yet. They haven't actually sold the Hyderabad or yet? The two green-robed middle-aged men said. The two Sindhi Buddhists nodded their heads. The two of them exhaled deeply. As long as the deal hadn't been completed, the matter wasn't set in stone. In other words, they still had a chance. After obtaining the address of the Wang family residence from the two Buddhist men, the two of them hurriedly left the white agate jewelry shop and boarded a carriage. That Wang Gongzi is truly formidable. Indeed, it seems like he has already expected this. At the door, the two Sindhi Buddhist men shook their heads in awe. Back then, when Wang Chong requested for the distribution rights and requested for it to be recorded in the Court of Judicial Review, the two of them didn't think much of it. But now, they no longer dared to think so. It was precisely because of this small detail that Wang Chong had already eliminated his competitors. Now, we just have to see if he can gather the 90,000 gold taels. The two of them said. 90,000 gold taels wasn't a small sum, but the two of them didn't have much of a choice. This wasn't just a test of Wang Chong's background and strength, it was also because Sindhi couldn't afford to waste any more time. The two of them received news that starved corpses had appeared in Hyderabad. Let's hope that he can do it. Otherwise, we can only look for another buyer. The two of them thought. At this moment, the entrance of the Wang family residence was bustling with activity. At the center of the entrance, Madame Wang sat on a mahogany wooden armchair. All of the nannies, servants, and maids of the Wang family were lined up in a row. Everyone's eyes were filled with worry as they looked at the carriage that was slowly approaching. The young master disobeyed Madame's orders and went out early in the morning, causing Madame to be enraged. Thus, she moved the chair over and waited since noon. By now, she was already fuming with rage. Looking at her steeled face and her silence, even the nannies who had followed her for decades were frightened. Today, none of you are allowed to persuade him. Whoever dares to do so, I will beat them up as well and punish them according to the clan's rules. Madame Wang's voice sounded from the gaps between her teeth, and it echoed in the ears of all of the guards, nannies, servants, and maids. Everyone shuddered, not daring to say a single word. They looked at Wang Chong in the carriage with pity in their eyes. This unfilial son was too outrageous. The matter yesterday hadn't even settled down yet, and today he went out to fool around. He only returned now. If she didn't deal with him now, who knew how much trouble he would bring to the clan in the future? This time, Madame Wang had made up her mind. She couldn't allow him to do as he pleased anymore. Bring the stick over. Sitting on the chair, Madame Wang stretched out her right hand. One of the nannies gritted her teeth and passed a barbed stick over. Those who cultivate martial arts tend to have exceptionally strong bodies. This kind of stick was specially designed for members of the clan, and it was especially painful when struck on the body. Madame Wang held onto the stick silently. The atmosphere in front of the Wang family residence was frighteningly tense. In the carriage, Wang Chong felt his scalp go numb. He was shocked by the formation his mother, Zhao Shuhua, brought out. He had noticed the abnormality at the entrance of the Wang family residence from afar. Clearly, he had disobeyed his mother's orders and gone out in the morning, which had angered her. Gongzi, what do we do now? Shen Hai and Meng Long also noticed the battle from afar and they couldn't help but feel uneasy. Madame's enraged expression was truly frightening. The two of them had been to the battlefield before. Through water, fire, mountains of corpses, and seas of blood, they didn't even frown. But before this madam, they subconsciously felt fearful and guilty. Don't be afraid. I will deal with it later. Wang Chong said. He patted the shoulders of the two of them confidently. But in his heart, Wang Chong wasn't too confident either. After enjoying the limelight outside for a period of time, trouble had arrived. Mother! Wang Chong walked out of the carriage with goosebumps all over his body. With an ice-cold face, his mother looked extremely frightening. Shen Hai and Meng Long, aren't you two coming over? Madame Wang's face was cold and she ignored Wang Chong. Madam! Shen Hai and Meng Long walked over anxiously and kneeled before Madame Wang. Madame had instructed them to guard young Master Chong, but not only did they fail to do so, they even went out with young Master Chong. The rage in Madame's heart was unimaginable. Don't the two of you have anything to say? Madame Wang's face was cold. She trusted the two of them deeply. Thus, when she heard that the two of them let Wang Chong out of the residence, she felt even more furious. We have failed in our duties, madam. Please punish us. Kneeling on the floor, the two of them lowered their heads and didn't argue. There was no doubt that they had failed to live up to the expectations of her ladyship. The two of you have only known third young master for a few days and you have already colluded with him. Very well. Punish them according to my clan's laws. Madame Wang said coldly. She was infuriated as well. Just by guarding Wang Chong for a day, the attitude of the two of them changed completely. They were completely uncooperative and this infuriated Madame Wang. Wait a moment. Upon hearing that Shen Hai and Meng Long were to be punished, Wang Chong's face darkened. Mother, this matter started because of me. If you want to punish someone, punish me. This has nothing to do with Shen Hai and Meng Long. Wang Chong's knees caved in and he kneeled respectfully on the floor. Wang Chong didn't wish to implicate Shen Hai and Meng Long in this matter. You have learned to protect one another so quickly. If I didn't speak of this matter, do you think that you can escape? Madame Wang said coldly. Nothing can be accomplished without rules and regulations. Mrs. Wang was also shocked by what happened yesterday. Before the matter of him kidnapping a female commoner was over, Wang Chong had already caused a huge ruckus in the vast crane pavilion and even the emperor was informed of it. And now, Wang Chong hadn't learned his lesson. Early in the morning, even though the weather was still fine, he abducted 2 loyal guards of the residence out of the residence. His actions were extremely secretive and no one knew what he was up to. Madame Wang was also afraid. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.